Been getting some questions on when to feed your chicks or chickens grit, so let's dive right into it. First off, it's really going to depend upon what you're feeding your chickens or chicks and what season it is, or if they're free range. If they aren't free range, you're definitely going to want to get your chickens grit just because they need that to be able to digest their food and crunch up the grains and different things you're feeding them. But particularly, your chickens are going to need to have grit. If the feed source looks more like this, where there's more grain and there's more things to break down and process and crunch up, the grit will really help. If you're feeding your chickens this type of prilled feed, which is not, it's rolled and it's not going to take near as much to break down, it's not near as critical. Also, the time of year. If your chickens are free range and it's the summer, you probably don't need any grit because they're going to find it on their own. They're going to pick up rocks and gravel and everything else. On chicks, it's really not as important, I think, unless you're feeding your chicks, again, something like this, which you need to be careful of because if there's big chunks of grain that take a lot of digesting, you probably don't want to do that. Whereas most people are probably feeding their chicks something like this, where it's not going to take grit. And you do need to be really careful if you do feed your chicks grit. It needs to be a special kind of grit that's really small and specifically for chicks. And even still, you really shouldn't be feeding that to baby chicks. You need to wait for them to be 2 weeks of age or older is kind of the rule of thumb or whatever. So hope those tips are helpful.